Hello, welcome back. Today we are going to check out the brand new Milwaukee M18 Surge. Now this, I am really interested in. I like the idea of the surge impacts. For lighter duty stuff, I actually really enjoy using them. So let's get this thing open and see what it's about. So, looking at the marketing at the back, they say it's 50% quieter, smoother driving, and it also claims to be faster, so maybe we'll check that out with the tachometer. Let's dig into this and see how it looks. Okay, now getting into this thing. This is a decent upgrade from the previous version of the Surge, which looks like that. And you can see they've gotten a little bit more compact with everything. We can do some measurements here quickly to see how much they shrunk it. They got rid of the drill function that the original Surge had. You can see we're down to just 3 options in our buttons there, which is okay. For me, I never used the drill function. If you did, leave a comment down below and say if that's going to impact what you use this for or not. But for me, it's not really a huge deal. So let's do an overall length. We're right at 4 1/4 on the new Surge, and we are at 5 on the old one. So they shrunk down by 3/4 of an inch. So that is pretty neat. You can kind of make out here that they are definitely shorter on the new one than the original. And that is a nice thing to have. While we have these standing on end, another thing that you'll see changed is they went from the trigger-based light to 3 in the housing of the ram, which is actually really good. A lot of the new impacts all are like this, and I kind of like going that direction. This lights the workpiece up really well. This lit the workpiece up, but now we're getting really good lighting off of the tools, which is pretty neat to see. Handle-wise, profile, pretty much the same. You can kind of see this, the rubber overmolding runs down over where the battery is at, and this one they ended it right there. They both have the area for the lanyards. I had taken the hook off of this one so it fit in my drawer. I very well may do the same with the new one. And you can see the construction methods. This one is a clamshell. This is a clamshell with an end, which it's fine. It's just kind of how the newer stuff is going. They ditched the clear rubber. This has that clear rubber on it that says Surge. This is just black. No big deal there. Something I'd like to get into here is checking our Sure A and our Sure D durometer. And what that will tell us is the rubber in the rubber locations and the plastic in the plastic locations. Both of these are fiberglass reinforced, which is nice. The tool will hold up better. So let's start with our Sure A, and what we should be able to do is jam this on here. Got a 70 there. It's the same rubber overmolding, so I should be able to jam it right here. 72, that's fairly consistent. There's a spot, 72. 70.5. So I would say this is between a 70 and a 72, so we're probably right around that 71. Now this also has the separate piece that is here, and we should be able to get this 82, so that's harder. I didn't get a good spot there. I have to be careful when I do this. I have to get it in. There's an 81. I have to get it at a spot where the tool doesn't stand off. 84. So this is in the 80s. So 71 and 80. Let's go to the handle on the new Surge and see what we have here. 70.5. Looks like they're going to be fairly consistent. That was not a good spot. A little bit harder to get. 71. I think this is going to be fairly consistent with what we were seeing on the other one. Yeah, it's not a decent spot. So I'm going to say this is a 71 as well. Maybe we can get it here. Not an overly good. Yeah. So let's say that that's a 71. And our rubber in the front, if you recall, that was an 80 on the old version. On the new version, we have this nice flat area. That's a 70.5. That's a 70. 71. So this is the same rubber as this. So that tells me that the rubber on the tip of the original is probably going to hold up a little bit better than the new one. Now the new one is molded on a little differently, so it may compensate in that regard, but this clear rubber was a harder durometer. So interesting. Let's go to our Shore D and see what we get on the old one. I have a decent spot here that I think I can get on. 75 to 78. Let's see if I can get here, get the same reading. About a 75, 76. And we'll go somewhere on the top. Somewhere right here. It's about a 74. I know you can't see it too well, but that's around a 75. We had 74, 76, so 75. Now let's see what we get on the new one. 76. Get the other side here. They should be relatively consistent. 76. And on the top, just like we did with the original, got about an 80 there. So I would say, let's hit another spot. Yeah, right to 78. So I'd say the plastic is very similar between the two. This might be a little bit harder in certain spots, and it could be that it's thicker here, or just maybe more glass fiber got in that spot when they injection molded it. But overall, they're very similar. Okay, so another fun test will be, let's see how much they weigh. If you have an idea how the old one weighed, how much it weighed, we are right at 36 ounces. And now this one has the clip on it, but we'll get an idea here. I don't know that the clip is really going to make that much difference, but why not? We'll take it off. I can. Probably going to take it off anyway, so let's just rule that out. They do have Loctite on the clip, which helps keep it on. It's a Torx screwdriver that is slotted. So there you see the new one weighs just a little bit more. I'm going to put the screwdriver or screw back in so I don't lose it. So there you have it, 37.9 versus 36. So next what we can do is we'll take a look at the RPMs of these. Now this one advertised being faster, and they put it at 3200 RPM. This one says that it is 3000 RPM. So we should get a little bit more out of the new one than we did the original. Now to test that, we have our tachometer and our trusty 7/8 socket with reflective tape on it. Now we can test, you can see that's just to push in and install. Pull the collet out to release. Same exact setup here, push in to install, pull the collet out to release. It actually looks like these both have the same collet on them. So if you liked the old collet, you have the same one on the new one. If you do not like the collet on this one, you're probably not going to like that collet. Okay, so to test these, I'm going to go bigger than you really need to, but I figure we'll give it the best chance it has. We're going to run both of these off of the exact same battery. We're not going to really drain these down for any super amount during the testing that we're going to do. So this is going to be a fully charged, high output 8.0 battery. Go right on our tool with it. Set the tool to 3. Stick our socket in there, and let's fire up the meter root. So we should see this go up. So in that direction, we got just about 2900 RPM, very close to the advertised 3000. Let's see what we get going in forward. That was the reverse test. So I think we have basically the same, there you go, almost 2900 RPM on the original. So just about 100 shy of the advertised 3000. I will take this same battery, put it on the new one. Okay, the new one is on 3. Let's see what we get. So reverse test first, just like before. So we did get the advertised 3200 RPM out of it. Change our direction. Little jumpy with the button there, but we got the same 3200 RPM. So the old one is saying what it actually is for RPM. So that's cool. So next up, what we'll do is we will get our light meter, and I'm going to have a bit of noise in that test, but what I really want to see is mainly the light temperature of what the trigger puts out. So if we do this, you can see that is a 4000K work light, and it's a much bluer light, 7500 on your tool readout. And now on the original, we're going to do the same thing, and we have that same cold blue. Get it in there. I'm going to guess that it's going to be about that 6,500 to 7,000 K, and something similar. I'm getting the shop lights, about a 7,000 K probably for the work light as well. You can even see it here when we look at it with the white balance of the camera. And when I put that on there, you can see we're in that range, 6,800 or so. So it's about a 7,500 K. Whereas when we put this on, you can see that looks whiter than when I get this in the frame. These look almost yellow. And you'll see when we get up on these, there's that 3,500 K, 4,000 K-ish. And if I go down to this light, we then get that colder 7,000. So work lights on this, a 4,000 K, which is a nice light. It actually looks the same because my shop lights are 4,000 K, so it looks the same on the table. It doesn't look blue or anything, and that's why they look very white, because the shop lights are 4,000 K. So another fun thing that might be to try would be a little subjective because of how close you're going to be to it. But let's see how loud this tool is. You can see, just talking, you're in the 80s. Let's see what the tool is at just running, not impacting. Now I'm right by the tool, and I figure as long as we hold the exact same spot, we'll have a pretty even measurement. Because if I hold the tool all the way back here, it's going to be a lower decibel. So I am very close. This is essentially emulating you holding this thing up in your ear and how loud it would be. So that is about 96. No load, 96. And we're going to try it with a load then too. The new version, let's see what we get. So we had a 96 dipping into a 97, and I think the two are pretty evenly matched in the sound department at no load. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and throw a load on this, which will get us into our next segment. We're going to put a 3/4 deep socket on this, and I'm just going to hold on to it and let this thing ugga-dugga. So we went up to about 105 with this version. So we had 105, let's see what the new one is. So this thing is much more aggressive, but you can see we also got louder at a 108. And I do not want to do that to my hand too much. So, 105 to 108. Now we'll take the decibel meter over with us to the next test, which is going to be over at the vise. Okay, so we're over at the vise. Now we have our sound meter set up. It's just going to get the ambient in the area because everything's going to resonate. This is just for funsies. So if I have that at the same spot for both of these things, we're going to have a good idea of what they're putting out. So let's go ahead and run these down, and I'll run it down. We're running the old version of the Surge, and I'm going to just run these down, hopefully not bounce everything everywhere, and we'll set these. We're using a Sunex 3/8 drive 3/4 deep socket on our Titan adapter, and we're just going to run this down, let it stop, and we'll use our torque wrench to back it off. So we will go ahead and see what the tightness of these is, and we'll do the same test with the new version. Okay, we are over at the vise and we're going to back these off. I think I need to get a different bite with my torque wrench. Okay, here we go. First one, let's see how tight it was. 30.9. Second one. That one went a little quicker than I thought it would. That was 21-ish. I was trying to load it slowly. That's more what I was going for. And we got 29.1. So we had the one outlier, but I do believe that we are going to be around 30 foot-pounds with what we're testing here. Okay, so we have our new version of the Surge ready to go here with our 3 work lights. And we are going to go ahead and run these down and see what we get. Left the camera vertical. Let's see how this goes. Here we go. Okay, let's see how tight the new Surge can get. Try and hold it straight. 19.4. That's actually quite surprising. .6. This one's not in frame the best. And 24.9. So, kind of a surprising result. The new Surge, at best, was kind of our wild card on the old one. Okay, so I have one other test that I'd like to play around with here. And to do that, we're going to get out something kind of custom that we made here on the channel. And what this is, it's a battery volt and amp meter. And we put CTs, actually Hall effect sensors, inside of this battery casing. And we have an M18 in, M18 out. So, in effect, we can snap this on a battery and it'll tell us the voltage the battery has in it. Put a meter on both sides, they read the same thing. So what we can do now is we can see what our running current of the tool is with battery on it. And we should be able to test it under load and see how much current it has on it. So let's do our first step and see how much current the old and new take to run. So let's start with the original version. And all we gotta do is slap our battery on just like that. It's a little clunky, I'll grant you that, but it works all the same. So, what we're going to do is we're in number 3, full trigger. I would say about 3.3 amps is probably about where that's going to be. Let's put the new one on. See what we get there. So after running a little bit, it came pretty close. It's 3.6 amps. You saw it jumping between 3.6 and 3.4. This is a fairly cheap meter, so the resolution is not what you would see with what you know, a fluke meter or something like that. So, hey, we're just playing around in the shop here, having a little bit of fun. Next up, to put this under some load, I have an angle iron here with a 1/2 inch fastener that I'm just going to run it tight and we're going to see what we get. So we're going to put our adapter in. And we're going to run this tight and see how much current this tool makes under load. So we have the old original. We're driving in. I have no idea what we're going to get here, but we're going to find out. Here we go. Let's go with about 25. I'd say we had on that. So now that's got that driven tight. Let's see if this one can get it any tighter. So we'll call the old one about 25 amps. Let's see what the new one does. The new one is quite a bit more, about 10 amps more under load. So you saw freewheeling was about equal, and 25 on the original, 35 on the new version. Alright, so we have another entry in our testing, and what we have is a vibration sensor. Now, this is something that might be interesting to see how tools act when they're running and under load. We just had our impact in the piece of angle, so I thought, I recently got this thing, so I thought I'd play around with it and we see what kind of numbers we could get out of it, because it's very interesting to see, you know, like you can see me moving it around and it's showing. We're set up for velocity right now. Or I'm sorry, we're showing acceleration right now, which you can kind of see by me twirling it. So I'd be curious to see, let me get my cable undone here. Be curious to see exactly what we get with this on these tools. So conveniently, this little probe fits right inside the screw on this housing, and I can make contact with the screw head, and I can do the same thing with this one. So I'm thinking we should be able to get a pretty good reading on what the chassis is doing. Now you could argue that just laying it on the rubber is going to be more what we feel with our hands. But I think if we test everything pretty much the same, we should have a pretty good representation of what the tool's doing. So we're going to start with our acceleration, and then we're going to go to our velocity, and then we're going to go to a displacement measurement. So you can see here that we're set up for the acceleration. We're on A. Let's see what we get. Appears as though the tool doesn't have super fast resolution. I would say that's an acceleration of about 18. I am moving this, you can see if I'm changing the reading. Got it up to 19. Let's see what happens here. I can definitely feel it in the housing, so we could call that about a 20. Okay, now let's change to velocity and see what we get there. Our velocity is a 0.23. We'll go to our displacement measurement. We'll call that a 0.18. It kind of ranged around a little bit. I sped the footage up. Okay, so let's go to our new version and see what it does. So we should be able to do the same thing. Right into that hole where the fastener is, this sensor probe likes to sit in there very well. So let's go ahead and see what we get on this one. I'm seeing it range around a bit, but I think I'm going to call that a 0.2. Just a little bit higher. And feeling this, I can feel it's vibrating a little bit more. Let's go to our velocity. That's pretty solid at a 0.28. Let's go to our acceleration. Now that one's interesting. 57.6. The other one was a 20. Okay, now is where this is going to get interesting. We're going to do our acceleration, velocity, and displacement with this tool under load. And we're going to go ahead and send this thing with our 1/2 inch fastener in this nice thick piece of angle iron. Let's see what we get with the tool under load. Number 3. Full send with the original version of the Surge. Here we go. $199.9. I have to wonder if that is full scale. Okay, so we did a little screwing around here, and it became abundantly clear that this tool is not meant for high vibration use. So the best we're going to do is get a running at idle reading off of this tool. We are not going to get a reading from it under the vibration, high vibration running load. So one of those things you got to try to know, but we at least have some good data on these tools running just in your hand alone, which is interesting. Okay, since we're playing around over here on the bench with the angle, let's see what we get if we drive this bolt decibel wise and see what we get here. So we're just gonna go right on here, squeeze the trigger all the way, and see what the decibel reading is. I'm not gonna move anything. This is sitting where it's sitting. We're gonna get the same reading. This is pretty much right on it. So this is the scenario where you're jammed in a hole and you're running this thing right next to your head, because that's the way you can reach it. So here we go. We'll call that about 118 decibels. And let's see what the new one is. $124. So the new one is indeed quite a bit louder than the original. Now, one of the places where these impacts are interesting is at a lower impact. And what I mean by that is not full trigger. So if you just get into it, they have a much quieter sound. They can go crazy, but that little bit of impacting isn't really all that loud. If we were to take another regular Milwaukee impact and just hit it lightly, we're already at 116, and I'm just barely running the tool. Now, if I really go after this, we're about the same full volume, but lower torque. We have a slightly lower sound level, which I think is the interesting part of this. Like, I gotta drive quite a bit harder. Like, here's the load setting. Now, it's not hitting quite as hard, but I think you kind of get the sound difference. And if we go to the original on a lower impact. It's even quieter. So I think that's kind of where these really kind of come in on their own, is if you need a driver that isn't super loud, these are quieter than these, because the way this hits is different than these. Overall, we had a little bit of fun here taking a look at the new Milwaukee Surge Impact. I think this hydraulic technology is really interesting. This was kind of a go-to for me if I needed to be quiet. This is not as quiet. So that's something that I want to take into and get across, that if you're trying to use an impact in, say, a hospital or some sort of office building, that perhaps using impact guns would disturb the customer in some way or another, this is still a good impact because it's relatively quiet and it gets a lot done for you. There's also a 12-volt version of this, not yet of this. So if you're in the M12 line, there is, to my knowledge, not 12-volt version upgrade for the Surge. So if you're looking for one of those, you may have to wait a little bit longer. So there we go. I thought this would be fun. These both have their applied use. They're both, I think this one hits harder. I think what we found when we did our torque test was the perfect storm of all of our adapters kind of vibrating in between because of the speed at which everything impacts. We have an impacts per minute of 4,000 on the original, and we have 6,300 on the new version. So you can hear when we did the impact test there that this definitely has way more impacts per minute. This definitely has that hydraulic action to it, and I really find that interesting. I'm curious to see where the hydraulic tool market goes, if it just kind of fizzles or if it continues to get developed into something. I think there's something there, and I'm kind of curious to see how it develops as time goes on. Tools tend to be polarizing with people. Either you love them or you hate them. Somebody might say, those are all junk. I normally don't look at it that way. I like to look at tools for what they are and where I could use them. There's always an application for something, and if you use it for its application, a 3/4 inch deep socket is not really the intended application for these tools, either of them. But it's an extreme test that we can do to see exactly what you put these tools through and kind of get some baseline readings on how much current you could get out of it or something like that. So that's the sort of thing that we're going extremes when we do our testing. It's not necessarily realistic. If you're running deck screws, these would both be great tools and they wouldn't be super loud. So there we have it. We played around with the new Milwaukee Surge. We did some testing with it, a little bit of vibration testing, compared it to the old version in a bunch of ways. We measured some dimensions. I should note that this way they're both pretty much the same dimension, so that's, I didn't bother measuring that, but this is obviously shorter than the old version, and tested some RPM, tested a bunch of other stuff. Had a bunch of fun here screwing around in the shop. Let me know what you think. Would you guys get the new Surge? Did you get the old one? Not like it? Did you love it? Are you excited to see the new version? I like to hear those things in the comments below. We have a bunch of guys that are really knowledgeable in the comments, and they're willing to share what they know with everybody else, which I think is really great. So let me know what you think of the new Surge. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a great day.